All right, as we count down a few more seconds before we hit 1 o'clock, I'm going to make a couple more announcements. Again, please introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know your name and where you're from. We love to see where everybody is coming from. Feel free to show how you found us. If you have anybody else that you want to invite, at the end you will get a link with a replay video. You can send that over to them, and you can also send the invitation for the next webinar to any of your friends or family as well. That webinar will be on June 20th. It's a Monday, not our normal time. Our normal time at 1 p.m., but we're having it on a Monday instead of a Wednesday. So again, that's June 20th. And it's officially 1 o'clock, so we can get started. All right, so welcome to Easy Landlord Forms webinar. Today we're going to be going over how to create your legal documents. We're going to be going over things that you should do, add, and just some things you might miss. We have Elizabeth Colgrove hosting this webinar. She is from Reluctant Landlord. Feel free to check out her website and her book. It is called The Everything Lease Addendum, How To for Landlords. Those links will be in the chat box, so feel free to click them and check it out. And again, we have our June webinar, Monday, June 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I will let Elizabeth take it over now.
Thanks, Erica. I appreciate it. I look forward to chatting about this subject because this is literally one of my favorite subjects. I know for many people, legal documents are either boring or stressful, but for me, it has been the key to being able to manage our 11 houses as stress-free as possible. So I look forward to getting started. So let's talk about what you need to do. Why are these documents so important? If you talk to any experienced, or like I like to call myself, jaded landlord, will tell you that if it's not in writing, it doesn't count. So that's why your documents are so important. It sets the precedent from day one of treating this like a business. When everyone gets started on the same foot, there's less miscommunications, less misunderstandings, and there's less trying to retrain or reestablish. Put your best foot forward. You want to do an agreed upon rules when everyone gets started. Just like when you get upset, it's the hardest to have a discussion. Well, that's the same as in landlording. When you're fresh, there's no emotions involved. It's easiest to set out that rules, put everything in writing, and then later when you have challenges, it's something that you can refer back to that you both discuss. One of the biggest arguments that you hear a lot of is the definition of wear and tear versus damage. So most legal systems say that there's going to be a natural wear and tear, like the AC is going to wear out. But there's a difference between the AC wearing out because it's 20 years old and the dog peeing on the condenser of a brand new unit and making it go out and need a new condenser. So you want to definitely set up like the definition, and so you have no misunderstandings. And at the end of the day, if this is your legal trail to define how you both the rules in the beginning and then how you have discussed them throughout. So let's talk about what documents you need. Well, first, everybody needs an application. That's where you start out your discussion on what they say they have to offer. Then you have your background and credit check because let's be honest, you want a third party to verify everything that they said. Then you have a lease. This is your written agreement between the two of you. This is where you put everything in writing from their name to the number of kids they have, all the way to like, are you allowing subleasing, no subleasing, pets, no pets, etc. Then the move-in documents. This is where you define if the condition that your house in. This helps with the wear and tear versus damage. And then correspondence. This is where you keep everything that you've had ever said between you and your tenant in writing. So let's get started about your application. So what do you need as part of your written application? There's your written application, your license, and your pay stubs. The goal of your application is check for their ability to pay. We're going to show it later on in this webinar, but there is a great online application through Ezlandlord that makes it really easy for you to send everything to your tenant. Right here. So this is how you can go on and send your application paperless to your tenant. So throughout the presentation, we'll be showing you how to not only define what steps you need to do, but how to easily set up everything and send it to your tenant. Next is the background and credit check. Everybody says they have great credit or says they don't have great credit, but the reality is most people don't clearly define what great or bad or all those words are. This is a great way to check on everything. So personally, when I've done my background and credit check, I don't look at the number, I look at the interior, because you are trying to see, is this person going to be able to pay and afford my credit, my house? And here is how you can do it. You can do the criminal check separately and send the request, and it's all online through Ezlandlord. So we like to keep it nice and easy. Now let's talk about your lease. This is my favorite part because for me, this is the part that sets up your written contract between you and your tenant. You put everything in it. My lease is almost 20 pages. Over the time, it has grown because I cover things from trampolines to animals to number of days of guests, etc. The one thing I have learned, if it's not in writing, in your lease between you and them, and it's not in state law, it doesn't count. There is no such thing as an assumption. So make sure you clearly define everything you want to put in that lease. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is when you're doing that is that there's state and local specifics. So what I had in my California houses is not necessarily what I had in my Virginia and so forth. And a lot of those things are most specifically like security deposit, pet rents, pet deposits, etc. The other thing is if you make a rule, in my experience, as nothing legal, just a crazy landlord, you need to have a consequence. It's just like if you go speeding, the policeman doesn't just pull you off and say, shame on you for speeding. He gives you a $200 fine or points on your license, etc., etc. Your lease needs to do the same thing. As Erica mentioned with my book, I have gone through everything that I have put in the lease over the years. These are my move-in documents, and these are what you put through. There's a timestamp pictures, the videos, the move-in forms, and then how to complete them. So you want to make sure that you first are taking pictures, that you're then doing a video, and that you're then completing your own form and collecting it from the tenant. Personally, in my lease, I make sure that I have that the tenants have to submit them within so many days, or they're saying that the house is in great condition. This way there's no misunderstandings and that there's nothing else to question. So now let's talk about how to put together your lease. Personally, I love and use Ezlandlord. This is how I put together my leases. And so what you do is you go through, and they have this great system that like puts a lot of it together so you don't have to work on what I call the backbone. And then it also goes through and allows you to alter what you need to add to it. So here's how you alter it. Now let's talk correspondence. The reality is you're going to be putting way more into your lease or into discussion than just your lease or your application, your texts, your emails, and other correspondence. I personally try very hard to put as much or all of that as I can into text message or emails and very little on the phone. For me, I want it all in writing because it's amazing how people are always like, but you said. So here, there is no but you said. It's all set up. Now, the great thing about the Ezlandlord forms and library is, I don't know about you, but before I came across this awesome database, I was trying to create the forms on my own. Well, the great thing is, instead of trying to either put it in text messages or create a non-renewal or renewal, you can use the forms library. So this is what I recommend you use, which is what I use, is go through and see if there's a form that fits best for you. Now, I know a lot of people have had questions about how much these awesome resources are, so I'm going to have Erica come on and she can talk to you about this.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, so the way the pricing works for Ezlandlord forms is the pricing is based off of length of membership along with however many units you want to create forms for. So say you just came to the website and you needed an eviction form. We don't want to charge you the full amount, to create a lease and whatnot. So we have a smaller account, which is the print all forms except lease 1 month account. And that starts at only $9.99. So say you needed, a simple move in, move out form, an eviction form, say, your tenants allowed a pet in your rental and you didn't let them. We have a form for that as well. So that's the account that you would purchase. Say you have everything done and you just need to create a quick lease and get out. We do have the 1 month access, and that is $29.95, and that gives you 1 month to create, edit, email, print, and e-sign. And also, we're a very truthful company. We're not, we're going to make you auto pay and whatnot. So once you pay that and it expires, your account goes right back to a free account. If you need a little bit more time to create your forms, I always suggest the 6 month account because it's only $10 more. And then say you need a lot more time and you have more units, then you would go to the 1 to 4 year accounts. We price them now monthly, but you still pay for just the entire lump sum. If you do have any questions about pricing, how to use a form, creating anything, tenant screening, any of that, feel free to contact our customer support. You can reach out by that little live help button at the top right of the page. We can also be reached by phone at 877-367-6771 and email at support@ezlandlordforms.com. And you can simply get all of that information in the chat box. We'll put it below.
Thanks, Erica. I appreciate it. Now, the great thing about the product is there's lots of ways to do it. It's mobile friendly, it's state specific, you can e-sign, and customer service. The thing that I love is the e-signing. I don't know about you guys, but I try really hard to do everything online these days. This way, not only does it not get lost in the mail or not get lost through scanning, but also the minute people are interested, they sign it. I wish I had had this quite a few years ago, but I had a tenant that was all excited, ready to do everything on Saturday, super excited. And then she had to send everything back through scanner at her office on Monday. And then she decided Monday morning when a different unit came up that she was no longer interested in my unit. So the great thing about the product is you don't lose people by waiting on technology, or because the problem with that scenario was another tenant had been very interested but walked while we were waiting on this tenant. So with tenants, it's very interesting and best to get them going through the process as soon as possible. Now, I know we're talking about why is this so important. You know the old saying, 1 ounce of protection equals a pound of cure? It's 100% true in our industry. Except in our industry, it's strong written documentation equals a real estate vaccine/cure. One of my favorite reasons for having a lease and why I'm such in love with leases is because it truly prevents the headache. Instead of trying to rethink it or renegotiate or let's come to a compromise, it's all right there. nothing ever seems to happen when you're ready. One of my favorite is I had a tenant that found their dream house, and I was super excited for them and happy that they were able to use our house and find their dream house. But unfortunately, they were breaking our lease, which meant that it was out of turn for us. We had planned to have it turned in July, and instead I was on vacation when they had notified it and wasn't able to handle it. Not a big deal. Thanks to the break lease clause, they paid us a 2-month fee, paid out of the lease, and then they were done, and we went and found another tenant. So they got to go to their new dream house, and we got paid. Well, negotiating that, doesn't always work out. So that's why when you're putting your lease together, you want to very much think of every issue that could come up. What have you thought about that is important? Are you okay with them painting your house? Are you okay with them planting in your garden? Who's going to be in charge of landscaping, and et cetera, and et cetera, and et cetera. And these are all the things that you want to put in your lease. If you live in the house, are you okay with guests? Where can they park? How long can a guest stay? Are you paying the utilities? Are you paying all of the utilities? If so, is there a max that you're going to pay up to? What if that tenant decides that since they're not paying, they're going to put the AC on at 55 degrees? Is there any repercussions? This is the time to address all of those things in your lease, and this great system helps set it up so that it's easy to do so. And now, my favorite part. Thank you for joining us. Let's do some questions, and don't forget, sign up for next month's short-term rentals. We do short-term rentals. It's been amazing for us, and I can't wait to talk to you about them.
Okay, so we do have a few questions. Feel free to write them in the chat box if you do have any more. I see rental. Okay, Lily said, can we use a rental agreement instead of a lease? Actually, the rental agreement and lease are the same thing, and you can get them because they're the same thing on the website. And the next question is from Jim. And it is, how accurate is the criminal background check? And I'll actually answer that one as well. The criminal background checks are extremely accurate. There's one thing that you should note, though. There are specific counties and cities that don't allow for certain information to be sent to the criminal checks. So for example, if you pull a criminal check from our website or from any website, because ours are from TransUnion. If you pull them, say your tenant says, I did get in trouble for, possession of marijuana or something along those lines. And in that state, that specific issue may not be allowed to be reported through these reports. So I highly recommend you check into those county and city laws and state laws because we do have to follow them as well. If you do have a tenant that does say something like that, just make a note of it and add it to their application or something along those lines. Most of the time it will get reported on those forms, but if they're not, at least you do have note of it. And then we always recommend, even if we give you a recommendation, you always want to look at the facts in the actual report and make your own, decision. The next question we have is from Kim. She said, are any of your forms modifiable? I've spent years creating my form and don't want to start over. I would like to copy and paste certain pieces of language. How would I do that? That's actually a really awesome question. So we have this awesome little button on the website. So say you spent a lot of time perfecting your Easy Landlord Forms lease because it is a do-it-yourself lease. As Elizabeth stated, we give you the backbone with all of the state, clauses and whatnot that need to be in there, but you also have to put your own specific information to make it your lease for your rental. So say you spent all this time creating that lease and you now have a new rental and you want to use that same lease for that rental. If you go onto the website and click the home button, you'll see your leases right in the middle of the page. And then there's a little button and it says copy as template. Once you click that button, it'll duplicate that lease. So you can use that exact same lease for your new tenant. And if you have any questions with that, again, you can contact our customer support and we'll walk you through it. Wendy, I see your question. I was trying to do the e-sign yesterday and would not upload. So for our e-sign, we use a company called HelloSign. There was a small issue yesterday and this morning, actually, that is fixed. We are keeping an eye on it. So if you do experience that, feel free to contact our customer support. Anytime we do have, any weird issues or anything like that, we usually get on it as soon as possible. So yeah, if you experience anything odd, just contact us and we'll take care of it. But eSign is up and running right now. All right, Cindy asked, can you use a TIN for a background check? Okay, I do apologize. I do not know what a TIN is. I'm gonna guess that it's like in place for a social security number. If I'm wrong, please comment in the chat box. But if that is your question, unfortunately, no. You have to have a social security number for our background checks. Oh, and EIN. But still, you would need a social security number. Right now, we do not, we only screen individuals that have social security numbers. So say you wanted to screen a company, that isn't something we currently offer right now. But you can screen the owner of the company if you wanted to do that. And this next question, I'm going to have Elizabeth answer. It's from Susan. She asked, how do you handle smokers in a non-smoking unit?
In my lease, it specifically says no smoking on the premises. And then it also has a fee, aka fine, if they do so, for remediation and for dealing with it. So for me, not allowed, and here is the fine if you do so.
And then just a little more on that. In the Ezlandlord Forms lease, we do have a little button you can click to say whether you do or you do not allow smoking. And then in that, it says something along the lines of, we do not permit any smoking in or around the premises. And then, as Elizabeth said, in any of the text boxes throughout the lease, you can always add that fine in. The next question we have is from Cindy. If you make a mistake with entering a name, can you do it again, or will you charge $30 again? Okay, so the $29.95 account, that actually gives you access to edit as many times as you want. So say you made a mistake with the name or entering anything, you can always edit it. And also, you can create as many forms as you want in that 1 month. As long as it's for that one rental unit, you can create 100 leases if you wanted to within that 1 month. So absolutely, you can 100% edit it if you enter it in wrong, and you will not be charged again. All right, our next question is from Anoop. If we lease to 3 people that will be on the lease, and we're probably going to do one more question after this one. If we lease to 3 people that will be on the lease, how can I ensure that my lease covers all possible scenarios in terms of who pays if one leaves, what duration of notice should the person provide if leaving? I want to ensure I'm covering all scenarios. I'm going to answer, but then I'm actually going to turn it over to Elizabeth because she can probably answer it better. But for the specific items that you did mention in your question, we actually cover all of that in the lease already. So once you go through the 7 steps, it'll actually cover each one of those things. But I don't know if Elizabeth, if you want to add anything on that question or on my answer.
Anouk, the reality is you can't completely cover everything. As Erica mentioned, the things that you specifically asked about, they are covered in that lease. So you're golden on that. But the reality is, as someone who's been doing this for a while with over 40 different tenants, there's always something new. You're always evolving your lease, you're always taking notes, and you're always learning from it. That being said, with the Ezlandlord forms, or like I like to call it, the backbone, and then like my book talks about the stuff that I've gone over the years, it helps you get yourself even further into this. The reality is, over time, you're going to figure out what's important to you. You're going to figure out things different than I figured out, because things that do or don't matter to me will matter to you, and vice versa. So just enter the journey, get a good backbone, get going, and then just keep an open mind. I hope that helps.
Thanks. All right, so for our last question from Thomas Dean, I hope I said that correctly, is the background credit check fee included in the initial fee? And that's a really good question as well. The background and credit check is actually a separate fee. So the forms are, a separate fee, and then if you wanted to get a background credit check, that would be separate as well. What's cool about the background and credit check is that we actually offer a free application. So say you wanted to send, the background, the credit and criminal, and then eviction report, which we now offer. You can send them the free rental application first, and that's free. And then if you want to delve into them more, then you can send them the other, the background, credit, and criminal background. Yeah, the credit, criminal, and eviction. Sorry about that. Yes, you can send those after. So you aren't, spending absorbent amounts, sending those to every single person that comes in your way. You can always just send the free first and then send the paid after you want to look into them a little bit more. And I'm actually going to turn over to Elizabeth to kind of discuss a little bit more about credit and criminal checks.
One of the things that I like that they differentiate the two is I personally have all of my tenants paid for the background and credit check. I find that helps weed out the people who are just wasting your time. If they're willing to spend the money, then it's great to proceed through. The last thing you want to do is spend the hour looking at all the paperwork and all the stuff and find out they're just not that interested. So it's a great additional filter.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for everybody that made it to the webinar today. If you want to share this webinar, feel free to send that link that we send you at the end over to some friends. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact our customer support. And again, we thank you so much and look forward to seeing you on Monday, June 20th at 1 p.m. for our next webinar.